Here are the answers for the Section 3 Word Problems assignment. Question 1 is the one about the rocket engine and the fuel and oxidizer that was in our lesson video. So this probably looks familiar to you. In this question, it talks about oxidizer and it talks about fuel. And it gives us some numbers. We just need to pay attention to which one is talking about fuel and which is talking about oxidizer. This 1.8 pounds of alcohol is a fuel. In this problem, alcohol is the fuel for the rocket. This 6.3 pounds per second of liquid oxygen is the oxidizer. Oxygen is needed for a fuel to burn. We're asked, what is the rate of consumption of alcohol? So this is an unknown amount of fuel when our oxygen is consumed at a rate of 7 pounds. So this 7 pounds is a measure of our oxidizer. This problem says that the fuel and oxidizer vary directly. So as soon as we know they vary directly, we can create a proportion. I'm going to set my proportion up by putting fuel on top of the ratio and oxidizer on the bottom. You could do it the other way if you want to. Here we go. 1.8 pounds of fuel is associated with 6.3 pounds of oxidizer. X pounds of fuel is associated with 7 pounds of oxidizer. Here is our model. We can solve this proportion with cross multiplication. 6.3 times X is equal to 1.8 times 7. Then divide by the 6.3 to get the X alone. The result is 2. X is measuring fuel, and in the problem we can see that that's in pounds per second. Number 3, the amount of hydrogen produced when sodium is added to water varies directly as the amount of sodium added. So there are two things mentioned, amount of hydrogen and amount of sodium. The 138 grams goes with the sodium. The 6 grams goes with the hydrogen. Then we're asked how much sodium would go with 7 grams of hydrogen. I'm going to make a proportion, and I'm choosing to put hydrogen on top and sodium on the bottom. But I could do this upside down if I wanted. The 6 grams goes with hydrogen, and the 138 grams is an amount of sodium. The 7 grams goes with hydrogen, and then X grams of sodium. Solve this with cross multiplication. 6 times X is equal to 138 times 7. And then divide by 6 to get X alone. The answer is 161. The letter X was representing an unknown amount of sodium, so our unit is grams. Number 5, Mr. Carr owns 300 shares of stock in the Ace Company and receives $180 per year in dividends. How much does Mr. Adams receive for an annual dividend if he has 450 shares in the same company? So we have two variables. We have so many shares of stock, and then we have an amount of dividends. I'm going to create a proportion, and I'm choosing to put shares on top and amount of dividends on the bottom. But I could do this upside down. So 300 shares of stock produces $180 in dividends. If we have 450 shares of stock, that would produce X dollars of dividend. I'm going to solve this with cross multiplication. 300 times the X is equal to 180 times the 450. And divide both sides by 300 to get the X alone. The result is 270. The letter X is representing amount of dividends, so we need a dollar sign with our 270. Number 7. The speed of a body falling freely is directly proportional to the length of time that it falls. So our variables are speed and time. We're given a speed and a time in seconds, and then we're asked for a speed with a different amount of seconds. I'm going to create a proportion. On top, I'm going to put speed, and on the bottom, time. This could be upside down. It does not matter. You just have to know which you're choosing to do. So when we have a speed of 144 feet per second, the time is 4.5 seconds. Then we're asked how fast, so an unknown amount of speed. I'm going to use x for that. And that goes with a time of 3.75 seconds. Now solve with cross multiplication. 4.5 times x equals 144 times 3.75. Divide both sides by 4.5 to get x alone. The result is 120. We were using the variable to represent a speed, and so our unit of speed in this problem is feet per second. Number 9. The weight of an object on or beneath the surface of the earth varies directly as its distance from the center of the earth. So our variables are weight and distance from the center of the earth. We're told that the radius of the earth is 4,000. That's like telling us that the surface of the earth is at a distance of 4,000 miles from the center. We're asked for a distance when we have this weight. I'm going to create a proportion, and on top I'm going to put weight, and on the bottom, distance. The 108 pounds is a weight, and the 4,000 miles is a distance. I'm going to use the letter x to be the unknown distance when the weight is 81 pounds, and then use cross multiplication. 4,000 times x is equal to 108 times 81. And divide by 4,000 to get the x alone. The result is 2.187. The letter x is representing a weight, and the weights in this problem are in pounds. Next, page 221 written. We have some story problems. They're just much shorter than the problems we just were discussing. We're told that y varies directly as x, and we're given values of x and y, and then asked to find x when y is 36. So we can create a proportion. When I make the proportion, I'm choosing to put y on top and x on the bottom, but I could do this the other way. So y is 3 when x is 9. Y is 36 for this unknown value of x. Now solve with cross multiplication. 3 times x equals 9 times 36. Divide by 3 to get the x alone. And the answer is 108. Question 4. We're told that the variables c and r are proportional. And we're given some values. I'm going to create ratios. I'm choosing to put c on top and r on the bottom. So when c is 6.28, the value of r is 1. When c is 18.84, let's find the value of r using cross multiplication. So 6.28 times r is equal to 1 times 18.84. Now divide by the 6.28. And the value of r is 3. Next one is number 12. If we start with this proportion to begin with, let's rearrange it using legitimate algebra techniques to create this proportion. Notice all that's been done is that the top and bottom are flipped. So let's start with the one they give us. And raise each side to the -1 exponent. Remember, as long as you do the same thing to both sides of an equation, it's legitimate. By raising something to a -1 exponent, you take the reciprocals. So we have demonstrated that you can create this proportion out of the original proportion. Page 216, we're given a relation and we're asked, is it a function? So let's pay attention to the x and y values. When x is 2, y is 3. But here x is 2 again, and y is not 3. Y appears to take on multiple values for the same x coordinate of 2. That's not a function when that happens. Number 24, the set of ordered pairs x and y where the y value is always -1. Let's think of some examples. When x is 0, y is -1. When x is 1, y is -1. When x is 5, y is -1. Hopefully you get the point. Y is always -1 no matter what x is. But we want to know if this is a function. Is there ever a time where the same x value produces multiple y values? No, there's not. When x is 0, the only y value produced is -1. There's not another ordered pair that also has x equals 0 and some different y value. So yes, this is a function. Page 215, we're given a function rule for function p, and we're asked to plug in -2. So let's do that. -2 squared minus 2 times -2 plus 1. This makes 4 plus 4 plus 1, which is 9. Now use the same function rule and plug in a plus 1. So where the x is, put a plus 1 here and here. We get a plus 1 squared minus 2 times a plus 1 and then plus 1. Now let's expand this out and do some combining like terms. So a plus 1 squared makes a squared plus 2a plus 1. When you square a binomial, you create a perfect square trinomial. Here in the middle, we're going to do the distributive property. -2a minus 2. And then on the ends, the plus 1. Now let's combine like terms. We have a squared, the 2a and the minus 2a cancel, the 1, and the -2 cancel. So all that's left over is a squared. Number 14, we have a function rule for f and another one for g. We're asked to evaluate f of 2 plus g of 2. So to find f of 2, put a 2 in for f. To find g of 2, put a 2 in for g. Let's see what we get. 2 plus 3 makes 5. That makes 5. 2 minus 3 makes -1. That one makes -1. Add them together and you get 4.